My name is Lennart Alexandri, and I'm the publisher of AR Media, which include, among other things, that I'm the editor of Detector and SecurityWorldMarket.com. Today we're going to discuss perimeter security, and it is a steadily growing market. Globally, it reached $61.3 billion 2020. And it is estimated to have a total revenue of $96.5 billion by 2026, according to Market and Markets. So it is a hot topic we are about to discuss. And in order to keep the level of this discussion as high as possible, we have a panel of experts from 3 vendors to be considered among the global market leaders within their respective fields. So what would be better than let them shortly introduce themselves before the discussions takes off. We begin with David Lennart from Genetec.
Hey, hello everybody. Thanks, Alex, for the intro. So I'm David. I'm the practice lead for critical infrastructure at Genetec. Looking at a number of verticals where typically perimeter plays a major role. And so we have in our portfolio a module called RSA, Restricted Security Area, which is the module where we do integrate and unify the products and technologies from our friend here. So cameras, radars, lasers, and LiDAR, so to offer what we think is the right approach to perimeter intrusion. And thanks for having us.
And then we have Mark Cosgrave from OPTEX.
Hello, my name's Mark Cosgrave. I'm divisional manager here at OPTEX. OPTEX is a global leader in sensing technology, particularly for security applications. So I'm heading up the team there where we are looking at integrating our sensing technology with surveillance and security systems to find good solutions for the market.
And finally, Tobias Ekberg from Axis.
Yes, thank you for the introduction, Lennart. My name is Tobias Ekberg. I work as a key account manager at Axis Communications in the Northern Europe region. So I work very closely with end customers as well as our partners in the region and supporting both customers and partners to find the right solutions from Axis to their needs.
Okay, here we go then. I think this subject is very, very interesting and has been all my 30 years of reporting about the security industry, because it has always been a gap between suppliers' vision and how fantastic their perimeter security technology solutions work and the end user's reality experience of it, mostly because of false and unwanted alarms. Today, the progress is there, but it still seems to be a problem in many cases, despite the improved sensors and intelligent analytics. So this leads up to the first question: what is the status of perimeter surveillance systems today, and how efficient are they? How much of a problem is false alarms today, and what can be improved? Genetec, David.
Yeah, well, thanks for shooting the first one here. So I say, first of all, I have to confirm your assertion. So nuisance alarm, and I don't want to steal the mojo of Mark, but I think the definition itself of nuisance alarm is very important. The simple way it articulates at customers is you see control rooms with people, waiting to receive events and alerts and alarms, I should say. And in many cases, they just are bombarded with notifications of all sorts. And those notifications don't reflect any actual situation that has to be managed. And so two things happen. For a little while, they try to attend all those notifications. And more frequently, after a little while, they're bored with those notifications and they simply switch off the system altogether, or the attention drop to a level where it's not useful at all. And obviously, and as you would expect, there are hundreds of reasons why you can get to this situation. And obviously, it starts by, you know, understanding properly what you're trying to protect your system from, what are the type of objects you want to detect, so proper design and then proper technology selection, and then get to a point where at the back of it you have a system that is filtering as much as possible from that nuisance alarm. But yes, the good news, and that's the way for me to hand over, is yes, technology has evolved dramatically. The sensors you put in the field are way more granular in their detection. Number of techniques to filter things at sensor level are available. And more importantly, and I think we'll get to that a number of times, it's the multi-tech approach that will eventually bring us to proper result. Having said that, when I say multi-tech result, also you have to appreciate the nature of the customer. If you protect your house or you protect a nuclear power plant, obviously you'll have different means to deploy that multi-tech to a different expectations.
Okay. What is your approach on this, Mark?
Well, to address the first question, the status of perimeter security systems today, I think that we're seeing growth within the market sector as we develop new sensing solutions for different types of applications. I think it's quite an interesting question, how much of a problem is false alarms, and I think David alluded to it there. It depends on what we classify as a false alarm, if it's a nuisance alarm, a missed alarm, whatever it may be. I think one of the key things for me that I'm seeing as systems improve, it's rather than not having a single point of failure, and it's about how we're now seeing today the inclusion and integration of different products. I think in the past there was just a product to do a job and there was no feedback from that. I think today, with the inclusions of surveillance systems with sensing technology, it really allows us to be able to have that feedback, which can allow us to be able to provide good security systems. I think that also then grows then to how we start looking about customers' understanding of the products that are available today. There are sensing technology internally when a controlled environment is very straightforward. When you start taking it outside, you have to start to think about the different scenarios and different climates that the sensor and technologies are going to be affected by. So it's key then that we also need to look at the types of systems that we're installing. And I think as that understanding of the technology and what's available, as that evolves, I think, and as people become more accustomed to the technology, I think that we'll start to see those improvements happen and be able to provide and start to meet those expectations of the end user.
Tobias?
Yes, from my perspective, and on the point on topic of false alarms, and yeah, customers have one vision of how effective a system should be, and discrepancies regarding that. I think it is a responsibility both from the vendor side, from the integrator side, as well as from the end customers to see perimeter protection as a ongoing project, because both from a physical standpoint, often the perimeter could change. There are different type of environments regarding to different times of the year. Here in the Nordics, we have challenges with snow, etc., during the winter time and so on. And I think there need to be, both from the vendor perspective and from the integrator perspective and from the end customer perspective, a better dialogue on how you can maintain a high accuracy of the system over time. I think that is something that could be a little bit not prioritized in the discussions when you are looking to design a new system. And that is something that I think, combined with the involvement of technology, I think customers could really have very efficient perimeter protections systems going forward. But I think it is a little bit more, if we look at the IT industry, and a little bit looking more at the functionality over time more than the typical type of technology you choose from in the installation phase.
I just have one follow-up questions. It seemed like the technology has come far, but is it too much ahead of the competence among the system suppliers or integrators? Anyone?
I could jump in, and I wouldn't say that is the challenge. There are there are a lot of really skilled integrators that are highly educated on different type of vendors solutions, and sometimes I think it's more of how a procurement is done, especially, for example, here in the Nordics region, where we have a lot of public tenders that could be a little bit difficult to write them in a way where you prioritize more a function over time than the lowest price. So I think it is a discussion that needs to be taken between vendors, integrator, as well as customers, that how could we make certain that you have a solution that works over time. I think that is a discussion that will be needed to be lifted up in the conversation when you're looking at a new system.
Okay. There is a number of different technologies to be used in a perimeter surveillance systems, IP video, thermal cameras, perimeter alarm systems, radar. What kind of technologies are usually necessary to successfully protect a perimeter against intrusion? You can start with Mark at OPTEX.
Sure. The types of technology, I think one of the key things that you need to do is to have products designed for the specific application. So in my opinion, is that if you're looking for a detection, you need a system dedicated to doing that process. And that's where we would advise to use sensing technology, because it allows you to be able to have a clear definition of what it's to do. I think trying to get something to do lots of different things can sometimes cause you difficulties. From our perspective, an active products, the sensors are split into passive and active. From our perspective, an active product is a key product because it's able to sample its environment and then make adjustments automatically. And that's something that we'll probably come on to later on, but that's one of the key things. It's about sampling the environment, particularly outside, and then making adjustments automatic to maintain the detection performance, whilst also stopping any of those false alarms that we talked about before.
Tobias, Axis is working with several different technologies in perimeter solutions. What's your take on this?
Yeah, my biggest take on it is that there aren't one technology that is best and the most sufficient way to protect your perimeter. It's often a combination, and a little bit on the point where Mark lifted up, and starting to look what the ambition is from the end customer. What do they need to protect and what do they need to detect, and starting from the needs, and then starting to design a solution that are fit for the purpose. And often is my experience that the combination of different type of technologies is often the best solution for the end customer. For example, again, here in the Nordics, we have challenges weather often, and then maybe we have thermal cameras or radars that could be really good detection. And the other regions where you don't have the same climate demands, then it could be more sufficient to maybe use visual cameras in some perspective. So it's always based on what is the need and what is the environment that the system should be deployed in, and then you could put together the right solution that are the most efficient, both from a technical perspective and also from a financial perspective.
Okay, David, can you conclude this?
No, I would say, I mean, from a security management point of view, which is the one of our, our software component, I would say you always get the best result when you can combine things. So multi-layer, multi-technology, I mean, whatever you can have it. And where at our level, we just, take the data, structure it, put some intelligence to it, and again, try to get a bit further. So the more, the merrier in terms of technology and kits.
Okay, so what do you think about the future? How will perimeter security technology system or surveillance system change and develop over the next couple of years? To start with, you can continue then, David.
Yeah, so I think that's. I mean, it's always good to try to see the trends and both looking at customer behavior and available technologies. Again, back to really the same red line I'm keeping here. It's the future is going to be the conjunction of new technologies that become available and they become available rapidly. And we see if I just look at radar. They were for military applications and they were extremely expensive. In just a few years, the price dropped dramatically. So really anyone can have a radar at home. If I look at laser and LiDAR, it's pretty much the same pattern with different scale of price. Laser were not as costly as radar, but the cost has reduced. The cost needs to reduce even more so it can be more broadly deployed. And I think the vendors are doing the job there. And then where I see the future is really in more unification of more things. And I appreciate the webinar is called perimeter surveillance, not perimeter protection or detection or anything else, but it's really about changing the way we look at it and bring surveillance to the mix. And that itself is a trend, and it means that it's not just going to be a detector at the fence to give a signal, but it's really about situational awareness. It's about visual control verification. It's about unifying more systems, not just detection system, but it's about unifying more systems to get to more proactive response and earlier detection of things. So the vision to me is really getting more tapping into systems that deliver data, which may not be just the detection devices.
And how is the view from the OPTEX perspective then?
So from our perspective, when we look at perimeter security and then the future of that, I think that it comes in categorization of the threat, I think. So what you're going to get is the means of detection, and then that will probably be visually verified, and then the threat then assessed. Now, at the moment, that's a manual process. From my perspective, where I see that coming in the future is going to be that will be more automated. So what we're going to find is the detection is still going to be relatively the same, but it'll be the categorization of what that threat is, and then whether that then triggers a full scale alert, shall we say, which then it requires human intervention. So the way I see it is automated systems being the future, if it's not already probably just on the horizon.
So Tobias, I'll give you another one then. Talk about AI. Everybody's talking about that. How will machine learning and AI make a difference, and how do you think it will be used?
Yeah, I think as always, when we're talking about AI and machine learning, it often becomes a buzzword that it is the solution to everything. But as I see it, I think especially on if we look at the camera side and also on the radar side and for all our sensors, is its ability to be more accurate in the detection and also be more accurate in handling false alarm is where we see the biggest benefits of working with AI and machine learning. So we see that our products are being able to detect in a better way, and we are also seeing that we could generate less of false alarms. So that is something that we are seeing and using actively today to try to deliver better solutions to our customers.
Yeah. So what impact do analytics have on today's and tomorrow's perimeter alarm systems? David.
Well, if we look at video analytic to start with, well, it has an impact. I mean, it's just it's just situational. We have cameras. There are more cameras. They also become better and less expensive. Analytic is obviously, as we all know, has been a booming industry since now a couple of decades, reinventing itself at times. But we will appreciate that now it delivers value, and I think perimeter intrusion is the place where the value has been best demonstrated over time. So this was remain consistent, and we now really expect, at large, we expect outdoor cameras to fulfill some type of functions related to perimeter surveillance. And then if I just extend analytic to other analytics in the way really of AI and machine learning, that is again an obvious benefit of new technologies, and I think there are three ways I look at it. You can apply data analytics at the sensor level, so to improve the detection itself. You can do machine learning or AI or analytic at system level. So, you combine data from different sensors to create value. And then there's an additional layer actually, which is doing analytic on the incidents themselves. And, not just looking at one location with a few sensors looking at the same physical location, but intelligence at what are the different intrusions occurring at the same time in a building, in a perimeter. And that's really at incident management level. So that we see analytics within those three spaces fulfilling different missions. And I think it's happening right now. Piece by piece, bit by bit, in specialized ways. We do all of here implement some sorts of machine learning or artificial intelligence. It's discrete, and probably people don't come to us to buy artificial intelligence or sci-fi movies, but technically the techniques and the methods, so the development methods are well going into production as we speak.
Okay. Do you agree, Tobias, or do you have anything to add to it?
No, I agreed on the point that David is bringing up, and yeah, I have no further comments on that. Okay,
and you, Mark, you representing different fields, so I'm interested in your answering too.
So I think from our perspective, analytics has a part to play within perimeter protection for sure, and it's just about how you use it. I think that's the key thing. If you use it the right way, it'll do the job that you need it to do. And that's the key thing. Try not to overextend the we're all tempted to try and get things to do more, and what we're trying to what you want to try and do is try and stay within the boundaries of that technology and what's possible and what's capable, and adjust your expectations accordingly.
So we actually talked about it earlier in this discussion about the different technologies. And perimeter security is often described as a layer on layer, much like an onion, and different layers may require different technical solutions. What is the perfect mix of technologies in perimeter surveillance systems?
Okay, I'll take this one. So, firstly, I'm going to say something. Every installation will come with its own challenges. We're all aware of that. But using what I would try and impress as much as possible is using the right technology for the right application. Specifically, it's difficult to say what is the one equation which will solve this problem. It's kind of a bit more complicated to say that. What I would say is, as I kind of come back to the very beginning, is try and consider about the operation. What is it that you're looking to achieve? So in my opinion, you have a dedicated product to be able to do a process. So I would say for OPTEX, I would have a sensor to do the detection, a camera to verify that detection, and then a system like Genetec to bring it all together. That's why we're here. That to me sounds like the perfect solution.
So David, you should probably comment on that then, since you are the master.
Well, the master, I don't know. I think we're there to make sure the users benefit from the individual technologies they deploy the best possible and the most transparent way. As somebody once said, we're just there to make the product sexy, right? So so the more they do, our job is just to make them do even a bit more. So my comment to this is actually, you know, it's a bit of the company motto. It's about your unification. And I see, to extend what Mark just said, so I see unification actually happening in three ways. The first thing you may think of when we say unification is, okay, you see the camera and you see the sensor on the same screen. So you have both information from two systems in one screen. That's unification number one. Then unification goes a bit further when you create those rules and automation that were mentioned before. So if I take information from one system, information from the other system, before I project the information to the screen, I try to correlate those and I automate which one I want to see or I don't want to see. That's closer to what unification really means. And then once you're there, you understand that depending on the ring you are at your onion, depending on the threats that you are exposed to at a very specific moment, you want to show an interface which doesn't have the context, so the selection of the right data, but you want to show a screen that's going to help you to resolve the issue. So a user interface that's going to enable you to close the incident, manage the incident, and that third level of unification for me is really this task-based, specific UI to fix the specific problem that you have at hand. So we unify the technologies, we unify the sensors, and then we unify the different UI components. So we, different UI pieces for this situation, different UI pieces for that situation. So that's and then to the onion correspond that many that many different ways of exposing the information and guiding the operator.
Despite this all technologies, if you look at the last 20 years, the big development has been with the visual systems like CCTV or IP video. And with increasing intelligence in the cameras, do you think that video surveillance will dominate the market for perimeter more than they do today in the future? I think Mark should start to answer this one.
Well, yes. I think that cameras are going to continue to dominate this space of the market. I think what we're going to find, you mentioned it yourself, the reduction in the cost of cameras, whether it be analog or IP, and then I think it's more the integration, how it can support the end user and the customers, the clients themselves. If a sensor activated in the past, the data that we were able to gather from that was quite small, where today with cameras, we're able to provide a significant amount of information and then be able to provide new types of solutions for the end user. So in my opinion, I think that, yes, I think that they will start to dominate, but I'll also see cameras to start to be integrated into sensing technology and having them unified to provide a single output. That's the way that I suspect that the future will go in perimeter protection.
Tobias?
Yes, I think, of course, that cameras will play a big part in perimeter surveillance going forward, but something that I see is evolving and taking a bigger market share is radars, and I work a lot with our offering regarding radars. I know there are other vendors as well, but from my perspective, I see the combination of radars and visual cameras are something that are gaining a lot of traction in different type of segments, depending on how the perimeter is designed or how the facilities are designed. Radar combined with visual cameras is something that I see is growing a lot, and I think will continue to grow further, because it could be able to make a very cost-efficient solution for the end customer.
Yeah, just a quick note on that. So I think the one of the big thing that's happening right now is the change from the concept of protecting a fence line versus a complete 360-degree geospatial understanding of a location. Before you had a wall or a fence mesh, and then you want to know if somebody is at the wall itself. Now the beauty of radar, I mean, conceptually, is that you track objects, so you know at any given point in time where things are moving and where things are located, and you can track them over time. So that's what the technology brings a little bit, and that's what it delivers very much so. But effectively, you can achieve the same thing with a laser or a lidar. You can also do tracking in the very same way than a radar does it. And today you can also do the same with cameras. So now we can simply ingest the stream of a camera and actually understand the actual GPS position of an object and put it on the map and see it moving on the map. And to me, that's what is really making a big difference. So that's the geolocation aspect, which has become really crucial. But yeah, I mean, we're human, right? Nothing replaces video. I mean, until and unless you have seen what it is, you can go only that far.
Mm. So what do you think then, how the perimeter security will change and develop over the next couple of years, and also in terms of demands?
Yeah, I would just essentially repeat what I just said. So to me, the transformation right now is really from the fence line to really tracking. So tracking is the key word for me here. So I would say surveillance and tracking arguably are of the same nature. So it's not just it's not about knowing there is something at the perimeter. It's really surface management, if you wish. So it's knowing at any given point in time, is there anything moving outside of my fence, at my fence, and inside my premises? So where are things happening? So yeah, and again, once you know the position, once you know things are moving where, then having a glimpse at it with the camera is quite desirable.
Mm. But can you see different types of applications later on based on new demands from the end users?
If I just then expand a bit further to the tracking and to the surface management concept, once you are there and you know what is moving where, then you're pretty close to being able to understand what types of operations are happening in your site. So you're moving from just looking at detecting exceptions and abnormalities, so intrusions. You can swiftly go into simply analyzing and understanding standard operations as well. So knowing where people spend time, or how work is progressing, or which areas are more used in your premises. So I see that shift from purely security really going strongly into operations, and we see this happening.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I can jump in on that point that David ended on, and that is something that we see as well, that more and more customers are not only looking at the perimeter from a surveillance perspective, they also see it like how they could do a more efficient operation. So, for example, using LPVs for opening and closing gates, and have records on who has visited the site, and as well as using intercoms in a more efficient way to address visitors and different type of suppliers or customers visiting the site. So we see more combined use security operations growing quite rapidly.
Mm. You see the same pattern, Mark?
Definitely, sensing technology is being utilized now for a variety of different types of applications. Generally, it's about the surveillance of occupants within the grounds. But it can also be utilized for, we see sensors being used for all different types of applications, like Tobias was talking about with door activations and barrier activations, access control, and it's all wrapped, it's all becoming more than it being just individual pieces. It's now becoming an ecosystem, and they're all starting to tie together. Everything is becoming together, and you're getting these turnkey solutions which customers really desire. Single screen, single use, having that ability to be able to monitor their entire site and then be able to then take from those data points different unique things which are important to them. The customers have different requirements. It's not just about being able to protect your perimeter. You may also need to protect specific areas, and then have different actions depending as people get closer to those areas. So many different types of applications that can be sourced from using these types of combined solutions.
So talking about application, what kind of added values beyond security can these solutions offer?
Beyond the actual security aspect of sensing technology, I think we already addressed some of them when he talked about access control and things upon this. I would also say sensing technology is also being used a lot for the green movement, should I say, about how much energy is being used, whether this has become very important to companies today, is what type of footprint they're leaving, their carbon footprint. So one of those things is important about how you can use sensing technology and the overall system to be able to help them with lighting externally. For instance, this is something that we're seeing a lot about. There's the light pollution. Well, sensing technology can help to aid in that. And that's on then the outskirts of the perimeter. So that's the way that we see it being used to be able to make your total site as efficient as possible. So that's something that we've been working on, quite a lot recently.
I guess you agree on that, David, sitting with so many customers worldwide.
No,
technology.
I do. I just want to single out maybe two things. So one that was mentioned, which is simply occupancy. If you have sensors, typically you can count things or people, so it's immediately desirable. And the other aspect is and that's everything related to operation when I go into really counting and occupancy. And then I would say safety. Because we see a number of processes in critical infrastructure, the seaports or production sites where the presence of a person would prevent a process to happen, or in the other way around. If a process happened, nobody should be there, and that's extremely useful when you get to use that type of sensing technologies.
Okay, we're getting into soon the end of this session. One thing we need to talk about is drones. Traditionally, intruders are arriving by foot with the vehicle or on the ground anyway. And in what ways drones are game changer for you working with the protection of perimeters? And how ready are we to meet this threat from there? Just
so I think,
Tobias.
Okay.
Yeah, I can start from my point of view, and where we see especially from a Nordic perspective, it's maybe not so much used for an intrusion perspective. More we see customers have challenges and concerns regarding industry espionage, or maybe delivering things like in a prison environment or that type of use cases. And there are coming more and more companies offering different type of solutions for detecting detecting drones. We see cameras being, especially PDZ cameras, being a tool to visual verify that there is a drone in the area. Some challenges that I see is like, what is the measurement you should take against that type of intrusion? That is the really hard question to answer, which I don't have an answer to.
So and that is the key, I guess. We can detect them, but we don't know what to do when we detect them. Is that right?
A little bit, from my perspective, at least.
If I may there, on the drone, I think it's just another type of possible intrusion. It's just another dimension, right? So as far as we're concerned, we're looking at it saying it's now 360-degree perimeter surveillance that we need to deliver. So we're just going to make sure that in the user interface and in the processes that we offer, we offer a response to that kind of new threats. Again, leveraging technologies which are made available, so radars, RF antennas, sound, camera. So there is a variety, again, depending on the budget and what you want to do. And I think what's important is what Tobias just mentioned, is understanding what is the threat all about. And then, I mean, we had a session not long ago around that, and you'd be surprised by things that can happen. Espionage is a very good one. So people spying on others in your backyard or in an industry. I just mentioned the one that I find is pretty interesting, not necessarily in the good way. It's actually a cybersecurity. You just use a drone to drop, an antenna or device into your building that's going to be able to sniff your network and send you back information. So drone has become a great vector, not only of knives into prisons, but also of actually cybersecurity access to location, and that's pretty damn scary.
Can you explain that, how it works?
Well, I mean, how it works, if you have a building that's well isolated in the middle of a big perimeter, you may believe that you are safe from sending information. So your Wi-Fi is controlled, so you cannot sniff your Wi-Fi from, let's say, the perimeter. But then, I mean, it's well possible to sniff a network. You need a small device for that, and you can deliver that device onto the roof of the building. So, and then you can activate that device to forward you the information from the local Wi-Fi network. See, it's like delivering an extender for your Wi-Fi, right? And then you comfortably sit in your car at the perimeter, and then you receive all the information on your own private network that you've just reproduced. So yeah, it's actually easy, scarily easy.
Yeah. And I also think that you also have a lot of airports, right, with this problem.
Yeah, well, the concern is very different. The concern is more really the safety and the operations. If an aircraft hits a drone, it cannot be really good. So the safety number one, and then if you have a drone incursion, so let's not talk about the worst, but if you have a drone flying around, you need to stop operations. And stopping operations in an airport, well, maybe those days you would argue about it, but normally stopping operations in an airport is a pretty expensive hobby, not really to have. So, and that brings back to many things we covered. So it's expanding the surveillance to the perimeter, much outside of the perimeter. In case of drone, you don't need to know if the drone is at your fence. You need to know a drone is there, few hundred meters away, coming your directions. So it changes really the entire nature of perimeter surveillance.
Mm. Okay, let's finalize then with a very updated question regarding the pandemic impact. Well, it has had a huge impact on society in all kinds of aspects. Has it also had an impact on the demands when it comes to perimeter surveillance, and if so, in what way?
Oh, well, I think I was going to say, I'll grab this one. Just to very quickly touch on the drones, actually. I think from our perspective, I think the possibility to detect is there. I think, as it was already alluded to, I think it's what you do after that detection. I think that really needs to be addressed. But just to come on to the question in point, the pandemic obviously has been terrible for a lot of us. And what we've actually seen is the demand for perimeter protection is increased. The reason for that is because there are more vacant premises, or there is less staff on site, there's less capacity to be able to travel. And what we're seeing is then an increase in demand for remote connectivity, to have the ability to be able to view your premises from and be aware of situational awareness about what's happening on site from a remote location. Now that then starts to call into question then security, particularly cyber security and things like that. So, the way that what we've started to do now is to carefully consider about that part of our interaction with other systems is how we communicate, whether it's a secure way of being able to operate, particularly on a network which is being accessed remotely. So for us, yes, the pandemic has thrown up a lot of different challenges for us as a sensor manufacturer, but we're tackling them one by one.
Tobias, you had a view on this too.
Yeah, from my point of view, or from Axis point of view, we see a shift in demand of different type of end customers. So we see, for example, here in the Nordics, there has been developing more and more logistic companies to handle the new flow of online shopping, as well as we have seen more and more establishing of data centers, and that is two segments that needs a high perimeter surveillance grade. So there we see some pickup in that perspective. And if we look at the functionality that the customers request, we see what, as we have mentioned before, occupancy has been something that has been discussed more and more, as well as on the point that Mark mentioned, that there it's more and more important to have remote access to the system and so on, more than it has been previously. So that is some of the changes or trends that I see during the pandemic.
There's another one too, I guess, with the lack of components and increasing prices on components. How does it affect perimeter security?
Yeah, I think from that perspective, there have been some, both from the pandemic side and as well as some other incidents that has happened. There has been some real disturbance in the supply chain that has affected the demand or the supply side of it, which will make it more expensive in some ways for some components, but in other ways their technology is always moving forward, and products are being cheaper. So maybe it will have an impact, but I don't see it will have a huge impact going forward from my perspective.
Okay, so thank you very much. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to kind of lead on to that point, just a little bit about the component shortages and whether that's going to increase the overall cost of the system. I think sometimes we can get a little bit bogged down on that bottom line equipment cost. But I think one of the things that we need to also consider when we're specifying these products is also to consider the operational cost should there be a problem. And I think it's something that sometimes gets overlooked. You know, we talked about drones and how the impact that they can have on airlines, on the operation of an airport. You know, if, utility sites, copper theft. When all of this has an impact, and I think what I would like to kind of really press is to consider what's the operational cost should you be shut down if you don't have the proper security. And I think that's one of the key things is when you're proposing a system, don't just look at the equipment cost, think about the operational costs as well.
Okay. David, anything to add?
No, I'm just going to agree to all the points that were mentioned. So both on the short term and long term impact, just singling out again the cyber aspect of it, remote connection. So I think that's because cyber people are really good at perimeter protection. They're born much after us, but they're pretty smart. So I think we're looking at what they're doing also now to use the cyber tech into processes and tactics into perimeter surveillance. So yeah, interesting.
Okay, so thank you very much for joining. It's been a pleasure for me to talk to you. Many interesting views, and thank you all of you attending and listening. And hope to continue with another subject another time. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for the time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So